Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 22, A Book for All Seasons. I'm Sarah.
I'm Tessa, and this is Checked Out with Green Hills Public Library.
Today is going to be a really exciting one because we have a special guest. We have Nichole, who is collabing with us from Quick Picks. She also runs her own library podcast. So, Nichole, why don't you tell us a little bit about Quick Picks?
So I started Quick Picks during COVID just because I needed something to pretty much keep me busy. And I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long, long time. So I finally talked people into letting me do it. And in the beginning, it was just like my phone and Zoom, and I didn't know what I was doing. So now more established, I have better equipment, and I get a lot of different people who I can interview. And we just talk about whatever we've read that we've liked.
I mean, yeah, I think that there's no better time to take advantage of making a creative pursuit like there is when it was COVID and quarantine and you're at home. So you have the opportunity to learn the software, to figure out the direction of the podcast. How long have you guys, how many episodes have you had? It's been a couple of years now since you've had Quick Picks then.
Yeah, we're on almost 80, I think. 80, 81.
Nice. Yeah, we're just little babies then compared to Quick Picks.
That's okay. You have to start somewhere.
Exactly. Thank you. And we're glad that we get to have you be our first remote guest. This is very exciting for us.
I'm honored. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So now that we know Quick Picks, would you mind sharing with us a little bit about you, about Nichole, not just the podcast?
I'm a heavy reader. I pretty much like to read mostly fiction. I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to certain genres, but I'm trying to expand my horizons. I read so many books throughout the year, but I don't watch TV. So it's my one and only form of entertainment. I've been working in a library for over 3 decades. I feel like I have seen everything, but I'm sure as soon as I say that, something weird will happen. And so basically, I just love to read books and then talk about them.
Yeah, that kind of tends to be like us too. Like we're like, oh, that'll never happen. And then something happens. Like we'll never see this kind of book, or we'll never get this returned to us in this condition. And then it happens and we're like, oh, cool.
Yep.
Great. Yeah. There's always joys in this job, of course. So you said you're a little bit snobbish about some genres.
So I've read one Western, not a big fan. I kind of avoid that. I'll read some romance, but I'm pretty hypercritical of it. It needs to have a really good plot. So I've been trying to read some spicy stuff, and I'm finding that it's all spice and there's not a ton of plot. That's another area where I'm trying to expand my horizons.
Yeah, there's definitely a scale there. For sure. But I'm glad that you're open to it. But I think that that's a good segue into getting into today's topic. We got a book for all seasons. We're on the cusp of, summer reading, which is such a huge part of the library world, and getting our patrons in and getting them reading and enjoying the library. And so that's kind of where this topic came from. And I am excited to hear your recommendations. We kind of went through and gave recommendations for each of these seasons, starting with summer. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the approach that you took to this?
So summer to me is hot. No matter how far north we are, I still feel like there's stifling heat and miserable humidity, and there's just a certain mood that comes along with that. And I feel like each different season kind of has the same mood or feelings that it just brings up. So I tried to pick books that did the same for me.
Yeah, for me, I kind of went the route where if it reminds me of something that I do in this season, cover played an important role, character personality traits or names, like small things. And of course, if it takes place in that season, I'm like, yeah, it's going here. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, for me, it was very much anything that gives warmth. So, like, metaphorically or literally. But I think we were all kind of in a similar spot with summer. I feel like knowing mine and Sarah's regular conversations will lose you somewhere down the line in the seasons. But I think summer we started at least in a similar spot.
Possibly. I go off of vibes. Vibes are what I go off of a lot of the time. So, yeah. Why don't you start us, Tessa, with one of your summer recommendations?
Okay, so my first one is actually a YA thriller, and it's Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. Maureen Johnson has written a ton of YA, but she's most popular for her Truly Devious series. But Death at Morning House was her first like branch off of that for like several years. And it's a girl, she gets a summer job because she like lights someone's house on fire with a candle on accident. No one's hurt, it's okay. But the summer camp is on this island, very mysterious. People are dying. We don't know who. And it's very fun. Like you get a bunch of like swimming and beach scenes and like this group of teens hanging out. But also it's like that idea of like a popcorn thriller kind of a feeling where you're having fun. It's nothing too serious.
That sounds like my kind of summer, honestly. Like just having a good time, hanging with some friends. Yeah.
Setting some fires.
Yeah, setting some fires. No one
Yeah.
gets hurt,
Poor
so
girl.
it's fine. I'm actually very terrified of fire, so maybe not setting some fires. Maybe like, I don't know, leaving the faucet on.
Okay.
Whatever is the opposite of setting fires. There.
You got close, I think.
I think so, right? Yeah. Thanks. What about you, Nichole? What's your pick?
So my pick is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This is the first book that I read by this author, recommended by a friend of mine. And there's a line in this book, the sun beat down on him like he owed it money. And that is so summer to me. And I really loved this book. It's one of those that has so much going on in it. It runs through my head whenever I'm thinking about summer reads and things like that. I'll reread this one. The characters, Ike and Buddy Lee, are ex-cons, and they're trying to solve a mystery who killed their sons. And there's so much that takes place in this. So he, as the author, he writes about what it's like to be Black in the South today, what it's like to be an ex-con in the South today, and what it's like to be LGBTQ in the South, and all of those macho type feelings going on, and how these two fathers learn to love their sons through trying to find the murderer.
He owed it money. That's brilliant. Genius. I've never read an S.A. Crosby, so I don't know, the writing style or any of that, but that line alone just is sharp.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's been on my TBR for years, so maybe summer is the time.
Yeah, there you go.
I have
Summer
no
reading.
excuses.
Gotta get it done.
You'll have to read it and then let me know so we can talk about it.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Writing it down literally as we speak.
Added to the TBR.
Yes.
Mine is If Not For My Baby by Kate Golden. And it follows a singer who ends up joining this new Irish pop star on his tour. And they kind of do like a will they, won't they? So there's like heat in that. And then there's also just something about a musician's tour and following this tour that makes me think of summer. I think a lot of concerts happen in the summer. I go to concerts in the summer. And so that like community feeling reminded me of summer, as well as like the musical element. I think like when you're in the summertime, music is something that I relate to that a lot. Relate to summer is because like I have my windows down. It's nice out. The music's playing. So that's kind of where I went with this. It follows, like I said, she's joining his tour. She's his backup singer, and she feels like very connected to his music, his vocals. He doesn't really love the spotlight, so he's kind of like finding these pockets of moments with her where he can just kind of be his natural self and not have to be this big, huge pop star. But also reminded me of summer because the main character's name is Clementine. So that's summary for me.
My next one might be more in line with the Razorblade Tears vibes. It's a little less light. And it's a horror novella called The Laws of the Skies by Gregory Corto. And it is, I've heard it pitched as Winnie the Pooh meets Lord of the Flies.
That's nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, but it follows 6-year-olds that are like Boy Scouts kind of a thing that are in the forest camping for like a Boy Scout trip. And it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well, and I think that it was a lot of fun because let me make sure I'm not. Yeah. No, I think it's okay. If you would rather go into it knowing less, then sorry. But they're facing their biggest fears, but it is personified by one of the kids that is on this trip. And it gets very gory, very gruesome. I listened to it on audio while I was at work, and that was a place to be. But it's very short, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. So I think before when we had talked, you said that you were good with horror. So I think it's worth a shot.
Excellent.
I think that's for me. You just had to say Lord of the Flies, and I was in.
The Winnie the Pooh didn't throw you off?
No, I was okay
The
with it.
Pooh got me.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. Run that back.
I don't know why. I think maybe just because they're like in a forest and it's like supposed to be wholesome. I don't know.
Maybe, but like they are also in a forest and Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Islandy. I think it's because they're 6-year-olds.
Maybe.
Boy Scouts. Maybe
That's giving Christopher Robin.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so my next book is a complete opposite of Razorblade Tears. I picked House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So when I picture it, I picture Linus is starting off in this really gray, rainy climate, and he dreams of this sunny vacation spot. And then he gets assigned this orphanage on an island in the sea, and it's like the feeling of summer hitting after too many months of cold and rain. So that hit the mood just right for me. It is one of the most heartwarming books I've ever read too. So that warmth, I feel like, also conveys summer. It's full of love and it's so funny and it just cracked me up. And I highly recommend it to pretty much any reader. Also, the audiobook, phenomenal.
I read that years ago and I want to say it was physically not audio, but I would definitely revisit it because like you hit the nail on the head. It's so cozy without it being like gimmicky.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you had like a lighter note there because my second option is very light as well.
We're really all over the place.
Yeah, and this is fine. This is fun. This is reading tastes. Mine is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. So it is again another romance. That is my wheelhouse. It's a magical realism romance. So we have like this play with time going on and like moving through time. 7-year slip, of course, 7 years. And in the present timeline, we meet our main character, also named Clementine. So there was a theme here for me. And she is met with this man that she's had this past with. And then we like flash forward we flash backwards to when they like initially meet, and he like befriends her in her grandmother, her aunt's house. And he's like given the summer to stay there. And so like they fall in love with each other. It's takes place in New York in the summertime. He's a chef. So it was very, very summery to me, just because one, it takes place in the summer, and two, just looking at the cover of the book, there's lemons on it. It's yellow. It's very thoughtful, but in a very light way. And so that's kind of what made me want to place it in for summer.
My basis for fall, I really leaned heavy into the dark academia side of it. You have schools starting, in youth, we kind of like operate on like what school, like that's how we like introduce different programs and stuff is when. So it feels like the start of something to me. So when we get to mine, they are beginnings of series too. It's a little bit darker. The sun is going down earlier. We're having more nighttime. Also, just like Halloween, spooky.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Dark academia.
What was your thought process?
Mine, so fall is one of my favorite seasons. Probably my favorite season. There's not many to choose from, so it's gonna be fall. And I like the fall activities that we get. I like that the leaves are changing. I like that somehow people are becoming more thoughtful in the fall. There was like this trend that was going on too of like creating your own curriculum that had to do sort of like you with school starting up again. So folks that were done with school and didn't really know like where to turn, but wanted to, have that lifelong learning going on, started to pick out their special interests and dive deeper into that and create their own curriculums. So having the time to kind of reevaluate, you're usually 6-9 months into the year, it's coming to a close, New Year's is on the horizon. So I wanted book picks that were going to bring that up, have those like conversations, echo like the season changing, this new beginning, the leaves changing, and like that kind of beauty of it. So that's why I went with the picks.
Well, mine is just my favorite things in the world are ghost stories. So I picked 2 haunted house books. I don't want to live in a haunted house, but I do like to read them.
I can go first with my picks. The first is going to be The Heartbreak Hotel by Ellen O'Clover. And just like the cover of this is giving fall, the tagline is also a fall romance. So I couldn't not pick this one. But what really sold it for me was 2 things. The first is that they go on a lot of hikes. And to me, there's no better time to go on a hike than in the fall. It's not that hot. The sun is not really beating down on you. And you feel like the crunch of the leaves under your feet. That just is magical to me. The second is that this deals a lot with the new beginnings. We have our main character who is, her relationship ends and she's stuck with this house that she lived in all throughout this relationship. And so she loves this house and wants to continue living in this house. So she speaks to the landlord about it. And he's like, yeah, you can stay, but like you got to figure out a way to pay this rent that's like astronomical, of course, because like it's a really nice house. And that's just like the reality is having to pay for this astronomical house rent. It's not cheap. So she starts this journey of providing like a therapy heartbreak home, hence the Heartbreak Hotel, where other folks that are going through heartbreak or grief kind of get together and they discuss those feelings, and then they go on these excursions, and it becomes very like beautiful and thoughtful, and more so about that journey than the relationship between the 2 main characters. And so that to me was also just another layer of fall, just those conversations and watching these new people come to term with how their life is right now and what it can be, hopefully.
Mine will be One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. It is a gothic fantasy with an emphasis on like the magic system is similar to a tarot card magic system, but Rachel Gillig created what each of these cards are. They don't follow like a traditional tarot style, but it focuses on our main character who touched a nightmare card when she was younger, and it should have killed her, and if it didn't kill her, the ruler would have killed her, but she hid it from everyone, so she has this nightmare character that's in her head, and it's her trying to hide it, slash then we're finding like a dark, broody man who needs to help her, because of course he does. But the magic system in this and just like the general vibe, like if I could describe it, I would describe it as like the blue filter that's over the first Twilight movie.
Oh.
You know, like that's how it feels seeing it
Okay.
in your head while you're reading it. It is also the start of a duology, and I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast or not, but I love a duology. I read 2 books, I'm out of there. I'm done. I don't have to keep rereading the books before it when the new ones come out. And so Rachel Gillig, she is that girl for that. Her second one, that is The Night and the Moth, that I talk about a lot. That is also duology. So I love this energy she is bringing.
She deserves her flowers for that.
She does. She's good.
For sure.
All right, my first one is House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. She is one of my absolute favorite authors, and I'll pretty much read whatever she writes. This one's one of her creepier ones. It's a paranormal mystery, and one of the things that I love most about her is that her female characters aren't like Barbie characters or brilliant or anything extra super special. They're real. They're normal people. And this one's about a mother-daughter duo, and it starts with the brother calling his sister Sam, and he says, "Mom seems off." And so Sam travels back to the home that they grew up in, and she finds that Mom is definitely acting weird. The house looks completely different. She's acting like the grandmother, and the house is not, it's not right. One of the things I love most about this book is the strong female characters. There is a male character in it, and there you kind of wonder if there's going to be a romance, but he just mows the lawn, so he's irrelevant. I do love a good book about strong female where some guy doesn't save the day. Yeah, but this has some of the creepiest, nastiest imagery, and I had to like, in my head, give her a high five because it was really wild. It's such a good book.
And T. Kingfisher, she always has like the perfect length of a book. Like she doesn't overstay her welcome. She knows what she's coming in there to do, and it doesn't meander. And I have also read A House with Good Bones, and I remember like walking away being like, wow, she really knew when to like, we're done. Yeah. Where I could see other horror authors having like try to like take it even farther and like stretch it out. And yeah, I would say that she is have you read any?
I don't know if I have.
Sword Heart's a nice romance if you want to do something along that lines.
I do like this though. You said that like some of the imagery in it was like pretty gnarly, and that's like also, I live on 2 ends of the spectrum here. It's either romance or it's like the goriest, grossest thing. So, and sometimes for people that's romance. So, yeah, works. So no, I think that, I'll probably take a look at this one. Or what was the second one that you mentioned though?
Sword Heart. It's a knight who's trapped in a sword.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I like these. All right. Add to TBR.
Yes.
So my next pick for fall is Talking at Night by Claire Daverly, and it kind of is like a Sally Rooney fiction sort of romance thrown in there. I wouldn't like classify it totally as romance, but probably a love story. And it follows Will and Rosie and Rosie's brother, who, and this is like sort of a spoiler, sort of not. Something bad happens to him, okay? Something happens to this character. And in the subsequent years, we see Rosie and Will, who sort of had like this budding hidden relationship as teenagers, grow apart and then grow back together. And something about that just reminds me of fall, like the idea of talking at night, which is something that they often do throughout the story. Like they have these very deep moments of conversation at night. It just, yeah, it reminds me of fall, like that, sitting around a bonfire and having those conversations, those heartfelt conversations, or dealing with grief, dealing with your relationships with each other and like other people. So that's kind of what this focuses on. It follows them like throughout their lives, and they're not always together and they're not always on the same path, but we see them like drawn to each other like magnets, that I think is really fun, and a really interesting dynamic, because life is rough and things happen and they get pulled away and pushed back together. And so that was like really nice to see. But it was mainly like that conversation piece that made me feel that this was fall, as well as that grief piece.
You love a second chance.
I do love a second chance.
Apparently, we really love Kate Golden today on this podcast. I'm going to shout out one of her other books here. It is Half City. This is a newer release, and it's dark academia as well, and it is a demon hunting school, if you will. She really like timed this perfectly with K-pop demon hunters like blowing up, because she had this one coming out for a while. You follow Viv as she enters into Harker Academy and is learning / not really learning, because she's a prodigy of sorts. Not a spoiler, you know that from like the first chapter, I think.
She didn't like it. Spoiler alert, guys. Sometimes on the podcast we talk about books we don't like.
I did not dislike it. I was just...
You didn't like it as much as I did, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
Because I was like, 5 stars, amazing. Give me
Yeah.
part 2 right now. And you were like, yeah, girl, I really had to force myself to finish that.
Yeah, that did happen. Is he? Oh, okay. So
I could
it's
pitch it.
She goes to this demon hunting academy, and while she is there, she crosses paths with a demon. Is he like...
He's
like a
He's
professor
an
there?
ex-demon. Yeah.
He's
Still a demon, but he's like
He's a
reformed
formed one.
demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like our man on the inside kind of vibes.
Yeah.
But you go through that, but there is a solid school element to Half City, which I was not entirely expecting. Like, I knew she was going to this academy, but it like leans pretty heavily into like what her classes are and what she is like learning through this time. Plus you have your side plot of demon romance, so really what could go wrong? But yeah, I am a big advocate that Sarah loves urban fantasy. She doesn't always believe me on that, but this was one where my opinion stood true.
Yeah, it was a good book. Part 2 is coming out this fall, guys.
Yeah, soon.
Is that another duology?
No, trilogy. But yeah, the cover does look very similar. Hey, she's trying her best out here.
It's Kate Golden. She writes very fast.
Yeah.
She will have the other one out very soon.
Yeah, because I think this came out like just last year. This year?
Not-
No, this year.
Yeah, early this year.
Early this year. Yeah.
She's quick.
Right? Love to see that.
Yeah. All right. My second one is September House by Carissa Orlando. This is one of my all-time favorite ghost stories. It ranks way up there with The Haunting of Hill House, Rebecca, The Hacienda, Sundown Motel. It's always something that I recommend to somebody who likes horror and likes ghost stories. It's a funny relationship between Margaret and her husband, Hal. They bought this dream house, and everything's great except in September. In September, the walls start bleeding and ghosts show up, and they just kind of have to hunker down. And then they get to have their dream house for the other 11 months of the year. Well, Hal bails. He has had enough. He's got to get out of here. And he disappears. So Margaret's daughter, looking for her father, shows up. And she's got to kind of try to figure out where the father is while Margaret is trying to hide all the ghosts and the blood and all of the gore in the house during September. And I just loved how these two women in the family interacted, the dynamic, how they worked together, and how Hal was kind of another irrelevant man. Sorry, I'm in the middle of some feminine rage era in my life.
I like that.
We're there for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of my stories are like that.
No, I'm all here for the feminine rage. I love grimy girl fiction, female character that is like out to get the world and
Yeah.
is deserving, rightfully so. Like, you do this, girl. Like, you go and you get yours. But I still have more romance on my list. So for winter, I wanted things that were going to be lighter, because winter in Chicago, if anyone out there listening lives in Chicago, you understand that winters here are bleak. They can be rough. And so I wanted to bring some lightness to that, some fun. So that was my thought process behind my two picks. You guys might have gone in another route, and that's okay.
Yeah, I am not the same.
Okay.
I'm going darker, colder, frosty characters. I'm going thicker books, long. What else do you have to do? It's winter, it's bleak. There's nothing to do. So we're going for a more intricate plot line, higher page count, more complex storyline. So, I mean, in theory, I actually did this kind of correctly, because it's like the antithesis to my thought process on summer.
Well, I'm the split down the middle because I picked a really dark one and a really light one.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
We didn't even plan it.
No, look at that. Oh, this is so cute for us.
Do you want to start this one?
I can start with my first one. This is The Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. And this is like you sit down in one sitting and you get this done. If you look away from this book, you will probably not be going back to it, because like you'll pick it up and be like, dude, what was I thinking? What was happening here? How did I get into this? But once you're invested, that's it. You can't stop. And so that's kind of what I wanted with this, because like it gets dark fast. So like you need a fast. I'm really the opposite of you here. You're like,
Really
it's dark for a long time, so read a long book. And I'm like, it gets dark very fast. You have to read fast.
Do you not have electricity?
No, I do. But like something about the short, I don't know. In the winter, I go to sleep at like 8 o'clock, dude. Like, there's nothing else to do. Anyway.
Yeah.
The book. The title really gives a lot there. We have this tyrant alpha, and then we have his rejected mate. Okay? And I thought it was interesting because it is very much like Omegaverse set, which if like you're not familiar with that, it follows like the alpha, omega, beta world of, you know, werewolves and shifters. So it's very much rooted in that. And we have our rejected mate, and she is part of this pack that's extremely toxic, patriarchal, and women don't get treated that well, especially women that don't have a mate. So she's kind of waiting on all these like knucklehead alpha, the tyrant alpha and all his little goons, and bam, lo and behold, one day while she's waiting on him and serving him, they're like, wait a minute, I think we are mates. And of course, he's like, there's no way. You, of all people? No. So they have this battle. I thought it was interesting because we get a lot of their like wolf personas on page, and like his internal wolf is so drawn to her and her wolf and her character. And to see that and be like, this is his internal battle of like, do I let this innate kind of feeling take over, or like, do I not give into this? So that was interesting. It also has a disability rep. Our main female character has a disability. So seeing that play out in this like pack mentality and how other characters kind of interact with her and her disability was interesting. But there's like a long list of books that fall in this series that kind of revolve around the same thing of like a rejected mate or like a different, mate dynamic that is interesting. And I think it's worth it for the winter because you do have nothing else to do but read. So you can get these all done.
Great work.
Thanks.
My first one is going to be Fairytale by Veronica Lancette. This book is a lot of pages. What I'm about to explain to you, you're going to say, how does it have that many pages? Just trust the process. You're following two different timelines. This is another gothic story. I wouldn't go so far as to say a fantasy. There are some paranormal-ish situations going on. But you're following dual timelines, but they're taking place in the same place. So the tagline for this book is what could possibly go wrong in a town that rhymes with fairy tale. And you're starting in 1955 with Darcy, and then you have a more present timeline as well. And they are both going to Fairytale, this town. It's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. She's an outsider in this town, and it's very much, we don't know you. We're not telling you anything. Figure it out. And then she gets involved with this family, the Hales, and from there, you're flipping back and forth between timelines. You don't know who is in what timeline and when they are and where they are. And it sounds confusing, and I will admit, for like 40 pages in the middle of that book, it is confusing, but it's worth it on the other side once you finally realize what is actually going on. I will say, if you are a reader who finds themselves needing to look up content or trigger warnings, I would do so for this book. There's a lot of heavy topics that are discussed, but not necessarily depicted on page.
That sounds cool. All right, I'm going to start with my light one. The Fox Wife by Yangtze Chu. This is one of the most gorgeous books I think I've ever read. The author narrates it on the audio, and a lot of the times when I see the author has narrated, I get really angry and I try not to listen to it. But she does such a phenomenal job with this book. I can't imagine anybody else doing it. It takes place in 1908. It's Manchuria, China, and Japan. And there's a lot of snow and a lot of cold that is evoked all throughout the book. And our female main character is named Snow. So the Foxwife title comes from the old folklore that is about people who turn into foxes. And there's also a murder mystery and multiple love stories, mother looking for vengeance. It just has so much stuff in it that makes you feel good. Some of it is sad, but these characters are phenomenal. They will stick with you, and it's the perfect thing to cozy up on a couch over a winter weekend with something warm to drink.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we just talked in our last episode about like food and books, and unfortunately cozying up with a warm drink and a good book is not something I can do. I tend to forget about my warm drink. So, yeah. That's okay, though. But if I have a short book, like my next book,
There you go.
then I might be okay.
There you go.
And it is going to be The Mating Game by Lana Ferguson. And again, we're here with the wolves and the shifters of the world. And I don't know, that was a coincidence. It was not done on purpose. But I guess something about wolves. Maybe because like they're so warm.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, cool.
They're
Just
like
made
a
that connection.
wintry kind of animal.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Like they're lurking in the winter, in the snow.
Lurking.
They're lurking. Boo. And so we have these two shifters, one Omega, one Alpha, again. Typically kind of the standard here. And our main female character, I believe her name is Tessa. Oh, sorry, girl.
I'm not a wolf. I'm sorry. I wish I had a cooler story for you, but is that really her name?
I believe it is. Or
Oh.
Tess, maybe.
That's not my name.
Close enough. Tess, yeah. So Tess is our main female character. She is our Omega. She ends up getting stranded at this hotel. There's a snowstorm happening, and she also is helping renovate the hotel with our broody, kind of a jerk owner of the hotel. Then they end up being mates. And so they fall in love. She renovates the hotel. They live happily ever after, and their wolves frolic in the snow. Yeah, it is. It's really great. But-
Very different. Like,
Yeah.
you had wolves, but one's like really going through it.
Yeah.
And, like, these people are just renovating their hotel.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's some things thrown in there, but what I like about Lana Ferguson is that it's usually very light of a read. Her main characters do go through, like, smaller things or are, you know, working through issues that they've got, but at the heart of it, it really focuses on the romance between the two main characters, and this was no exception. It's nice for the wintertime, you know, keep it light.
My next one is going to be Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. And this is a fantasy romance that is the second book in a series of standalones, which is obviously, I'm sure that we all know that in contemporary romance, that's how a lot of their series are. You can read them out of order if you want. This is not something that happens frequently in fantasy romance, which is what I think is very fun about this series, because the magic system is very lax. So in different scenarios, you have room to play with it and make it a little bit different. And once again, I don't have to reread the first book to move on with my life. This is clearly something that plagues me often. For this one, the first book is called Phantasma, and that one's good. I had a lot of fun with it. I prefer Enchantra. I think the romance is way better. I think that Kaylee Smith's writing really improved in the interim. And also just the premise is a little bit more fun. So Enchantra, I would say it's a fantasy romance, Knives Out, Ready or Not situation. Our main character, Genevieve, is the sister of the main character in the first book. And she finds out that who she thought was involved in her family line and her lineage is not. And so she's trying to track down anyone who might have this answer for her. She thinks that she knows who her dad is. It's not her dad, but she ends up on the doorstep of the Silver family, and this is where the winter really comes in here. She like literally almost freezes to death because our MMC, when he meets her, he says, "You're not coming in my house. Sorry, girl." But this is where the ready or not element comes in. This family, every 100 years, I think, they have to compete against each other to send the other siblings back to hell because they cannot all exist at once. And it is a family affair, but if you are married and your spouse competes in this game as well, then you're good. You win. The game never happens ever again. And so now we're in a marriage of convenience where in Deadly Games, each sibling chooses a different game and like kind of creates it. So there's a lot of different plot points going on, very fast moving, and I love them.
Yeah, that one's been on my TBR for a while. Shortly after you read it, I think I was like, hold on, I like this.
It's so good.
Okay, here's my dark one. I apologize in advance. Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. This also partially takes place in 1908, which is a total coincidence. I swear I don't only read 1908 fiction. So there's a dual timeline, 1908 and present day, and it's an isolated farmhouse in Vermont at the edge of the woods. And the present day, you have a new family who has moved in, and the mom goes missing. And in the past, you had a mother whose daughter went missing. And so when the teenager is looking for her mom, she finds a diary from Sarah, who was 100 years ago. And she's reading all about Sarah's missing child and the horrible things that happened to her there at the farmhouse while also trying to find her mother. And I just can't get rid of the imagery that this book conjured up. It dealt with things that I hadn't read before in books, so it was really intense and it terrified me.
I love when the things can still be scary.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for that.
Yeah, like that, like, I was gonna say shock factor, but not really, but like just that
Like when
Like,
you're like
oh,
rattled by something.
opposite to haunting feeling, spring. There's nothing scary about spring, guys. Spring is great.
Spring is good.
Yeah. Spring is I know I said fall's my favorite. Spring is like a really close second. So I love spring. I love that it's like the antithesis of fall. We get like this new, but also like the same, because in the way that fall is like a new beginning, like a shedding of this, spring is like this new growth that I think is really beautiful. So for me, I was looking for books that made me feel that way. That like opened my eyes to something new in a genre that I really like, aka romance, because this is going to be another set of romance recommendations, but also ones that had elements in the story that were spring like, or that reminded me of spring.
For mine, I was very much going like nature-esque vibes, things growing or growing back. I also heavily associate spring with water, I think, because of like the rainy season. So that will kind of come into play for me as well. But I think also this is the Midwestern in me, that spring very much feels like, there is hope. Like we will, in fact, leave the bleak winter. And I think that one of my recommendations for this section will embody that one.
I agree about spring being new or renewal or hope. Very green, lush. I have a lot of cozy fantasy type things that to me represent spring. So I'm with you guys.
I can do my first one. My first one is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake, and I really loved this. I don't even think it takes place in the spring, to be honest, because I think that there's like a Christmas party or like a New Year's party.
Eventually.
Yeah, okay.
To be fair, it opens with her saying someplace, some year.
Yeah, so
like,
it's
you could
really,
be anywhere.
It's really anywhere. But what really made me think that like this was spring, or it reminded me of spring, was that our two main characters meet at the Art Institute in Chicago. And for me, like visiting the Art Institute happens in the spring. It's a very like, the first time I visited it was in the spring, and it just, being in an art museum is spring to me. And so that's why I picked this book for spring. Other reasons include that this was, I don't know if this is my first time reading a love story, probably not, but it really stuck with me that like hey, these two characters might not actually be together, and that's okay. And so having that like new sight or that new perspective when reading romance or reading like love stories was interesting and felt very spring-like to me, because again, it's a new awakening there. But I loved it. It follows these two main characters that are both kind of dealing with their own things separately, but come together when feeling like they're at their most, like their lowest point or most alone, and realizing that they don't have to feel that way, that there are other people that understand where it is that they're coming from, what they're dealing with. And again, there's like a mental health rep that, would look into, that's very interesting. Some of the most beautifully written moments, like there's a scene of our two main characters just holding hands that is described so beautifully. And that like kind of flowery writing again was spring-like.
Alone with You in the Ether is in fact one of my like top books of all time. For sure one of my top, or probably my top contemporary book of all time. And it was a very scary, horrible time for me when Sarah was reading it, because what do I do if she's like, girl, that's bad. That's really bad.
We just stop being co-hosts.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
I have to quit my job.
Yeah, you
like
have
there's
to
nothing I can
leave.
do.
You move out of the city.
But you liked it.
I did.
So that's good for me. The one that I was referencing when I said like a renewal, a sense of hope, is The Poppy Fields by Nikki Ehrlich. You're following several different characters as they are making this journey to the poppy fields. This is where you have your sci-fi-ish element that similar to like The Wizard of Oz. When you go to the poppy fields, you sleep for a prolonged period of time to get through any sort of pain or like mental strain you're having as you're going through loss and grief. And you follow 4 different characters who are making this journey. They end up making it together. And I have seen some people not like this book, and I think it's because they were mismarketed. This is very much a book that is about the journey, not the destination. And while the title might make you feel like it's going to be more about what the poppy fields is and what is going on in there, it is very much a character-driven story about why they think they need to go to the poppy fields in the first place.
All right, I don't know which one to start with here. Okay. My first one is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. It's the first book in a series of 3. Well, it's supposed to be a trilogy, but I have trusted authors with that in the past, and then they wrote more books. So I'm still kind of waiting to find out if there's going to be any more. But I really liked this series. I feel like spring and fairies and witches and a lot of different types of cozy fantasy characters just fall perfectly into line for me. The first book doesn't even take place in the spring, but when I think about her investigating and documenting fairies and all of these types of creatures, it just, to me, I think toadstools and I think cottages and all of that. I don't really want to talk too much about the series because things happen. And in the 3rd book, I talked about that on the podcast and somebody accused me of giving away spoilers. So I'm going to keep it brief. But there's romance, there's adventure, and it's just a really lovely group of books.
I've never read it, but I've seen the covers, and the covers are so beautiful. Like, they're so spring-like.
Yeah, there's something about like foraging and like making an encyclopedia guide to nature that regardless of the season you're in, like that's very spring coded to me as well.
My next one is also kind of flower-esque. It's Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. and it's another contemporary romance. We're closing this out strong here. This was not a conscious choice, but it happened. And it follows a florist and a wedding planner that have had a past relationship, and they break up. This is their second chance at love. They are teaming together to plan this large, like a very extravagant wedding for an influencer. And like they're both kind of like jaded a little bit from this relationship and just from their lives. And so we get a lot of like grumpy moments, which I felt were very like realistic, but also very interesting because it mostly is coming from our florist. And typically in romance, when you have a florist, someone working as a florist, you're like, oh, like it's so sweet and it's so cute and what a dream job. But this main male character is like, no, like this is very like cutting edge and hardcore, and you don't even know what it means to be a florist. So
Like being in a library.
yeah, like being a librarian, yeah. um so yeah, that was fun, interesting. There's like a layer of humor to it. And it was very tender at moments as well because they do have this past with each other. So there are moments when you see one of them struggle and the other is there to encourage them or help take them to the hospital because something bad happens at the wedding. It's fine. And then
Is it
they
fine?
yeah, it's okay. It's all part of the journey. It's the journey of love. And then they fall in love again. And that's not a spoiler because this is a romance and we know happily ever afters. But that was my last one for spring to close out that for me.
For me, my last one is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This series is also interesting, similar to Enchantra, where it's not standalones per se, but every 2 books in this series focuses on a different relationship within this world. But The Bridge Kingdom is where we start. This is where I equate things to water. We have this warrior princess who is trained. She has a lot of sisters. They're trained in isolation. She gets picked to it's all very gruesome, gross, but she goes to the Bridge Kingdom to marry their king. It's a treaty, forced marriage, or forced is a lot, arranged. She agrees to it, but there's that enemy layer to it. She is supposed to be spying, finding out the Bridge Kingdom is untouchable. They need this bridge in order to make any sorts of trade. So this country controls this bridge, and it's where all of the trade for their continent goes through. So if you make them mad, then sorry, you don't get what you want. You can't get food, whatever. She's taught that he is a terrible tyrant man who's making these decisions and starving people out. As I'm sure we all know, he's not doing that. He's actually very nice. And it's their story from there and kind of what it means to, it like surprisingly has a pretty deep theme of like what it means to be lied to your entire life and like get to like untrain your brain to think a different way, which we're not all doing that in an arranged marriage on a bridge for trade. But I do think that concept and idea of relearning or unlearning thoughts and behaviors was very interesting to see in a fantasy romance.
Okay, don't hate me. I picked a nonfiction. So, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer is one of my all-time favorite books ever written, and I try to reread it every spring just because it helps to inspire me, to give me hope, and to start my garden and choosing the things that I'm going to plant and making sure that I get enough flowers for pollinators and just showing gratitude and appreciating the reciprocity of you treat the land and the creatures well, and then you get something back from it. So this book is enormous. It takes forever if you're listening to the audiobook. but this is one of those where the author reads the audio and her narration is so it she has such a nice calming voice that even when she's talking about climate change and the lost culture of various different indigenous tribes, it's really moving and it doesn't hurt too badly, but it also inspires. And I just find this book so important to myself to get me out of the winter rut and to get outside again and, working in the dirt or whatever. So this is a spring icon for me.
I love that. I think that
Yeah.
that's like a beautiful note to end this part of the episode on is that um being connected to nature and feeling that within that connection you're like strengthening something within yourself. I think that that's very beautiful.
Thanks. Yes, I agree.
Aw, so cute. Well, that concludes, like I said, this segment of the podcast. Any final notes on books for all seasons, your thought process, anything at all?
This was a really great exercise for me to actually start thinking in meta terms about what I think the books that I read are actually about or what they evoke when you read them. So, like on Goodreads, I've been tagging all these different tags for every book that I read. Is it a female main character? Is it, LGBTQ? And then I start getting into all these tiny, tiny tags, and it just gets outrageous. But this is a new tag that I knew that I'll be adding to the list. Is it spring? Is it winter?
I think that there's like a lot to be said for how people are interacting with this book, and like a book that you've read that I've also read, like it might be spring for you, but is winter for me, like based off of how I'm reading it, interpreting it, how I'm feeling about it, which I think is very fun and interesting as well, because like there's only 4 seasons, but everyone can get something different from a book, which is it's reading it, and that's what reading is about. So I like that too. Oh,
This is fun.
yeah, I had a good time.
You got some books that we're not usually talking about.
Yeah, agreed. Entering now like our book talk portion of
Yeah.
it, like that Mocha is what we read. I know, Nichole, you mentioned that we've started it, so we won't give like too much away in terms of like spoilers, but this is Monica Kim's sophomore
Mhm.
book. We both read The Eyes Are the Best Part. I really loved it.
I also did.
I thought it was gory. I thought it was, fitting for the time. And I liked the concept. I liked the writing. It was fast paced. And I kind of got like the same thing with Molka. The start of it is like really scary for me, just as a female. Like, dude,
Yeah.
like the concept of Molka, of like watching people through tiny cameras is very scary.
Yeah, the voyeurism aspect of
Yeah.
it. And one thing about Monica Kim is she does not shy away from writing things from the point of view of the person who is wrong and in the wrong. And I think that she does a very good job of showing what it must be like to be that kind of a person and try to like rewrite in your brain why it's right. Also, it's crazy to me that like Molka as a word exists to mean this
Yes.
very specific thing.
Yeah.
And like that sickened me in general. Like, why is this common enough that like
You have
we have a
name.
whole word for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really liked it. I think I prefer Molka over The Eyes Are the Best Part.
Really?
As I've sat with it, I think so.
Okay. Both were 5-star reads for me.
Agreed.
So,
Same.
So yeah. But do you have any like takeaways here, like where you're at?
I can see this book going in a couple of different directions, so I'm not entirely sure where it's going to go. I really, really want some vengeance, so I'm hoping we get some of that by the end.
Yeah. I like too that like you are rooting for people and they're very real people. Like, it's like they're very multifaceted. Like,
Yeah.
she's not shying away, as you mentioned, from writing the bad. So I think that that's interesting because it's like, okay, yeah, this is a real person. Like, this is not just a flat one-dimensional character, like a hero. This person is going through their own issues.
Yeah, a little moral ambiguity. Yeah. When I first started it was pretty shocking. Some of the lines in the beginning, it was so shocking.
Very gross. I also think that an author that we've talked about a lot is Akwaeke Emezi. But if you end up liking Molka, I would visit Little Rot by Akwaeke Emezi. I think it has a very similar theming and like the moral ambiguity and like who gets vengeance and who doesn't and things like that. I think that if that kind of like social structure you like about Molka, I would definitely try Little Rot.
Yeah,
okay, we'll do.
I love getting people on the Akwaeke Emezi
Little Rot.
Yeah, a Little Rot journey. I love that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much, Nichole, for joining us. This was such a fun conversation to have.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Of course. It was great to have like another outside perspective in these recommendations, and we took a lot away from them. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. We should do it again.
We should.
I agree.
I like this. Yeah. That concludes this month's episode. As always, for our listeners that checked out, if you have any questions or comments, anything you want us to check out, please email us at podcast@greenhillslibrary.org.
Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been episode 22, A Book for All Seasons. I'm Tessa.
I'm Sara, and we're checked out.
Read a lot of overlapping things, and I had read several of yours, but several of yours are ones that have been living on my TBR for literally years. So
Yeah.
I got to get that together.
Yeah. I mean, after this conversation, I'm like, oh, okay. Like having someone talk to you about their experience with the book
Yeah.
in like this type of setting, like really makes me want to push it higher up on the TBR. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I appreciate that even though you're talking about romance and love story, it wasn't like Abby Jimenez, Emily Henry, like all the really super popular ones that I've just been like, eh.
Yeah, you went kind of rogue.
Yeah,
a few of them.
I did. So I'm glad that was good because I didn't even realize that I had done that. And like this morning, I was on the phone with her and I was like, "Hey, so like here are my picks." And I didn't even realize then that they were all romance until we were in here, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. So they are all romance, nice." But I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you again, Nichole. We'll try to get this back to you like sometime within the coming months. In the coming month.
Yeah.
Month. We are gonna like really hunker down with this because, like I said, this is our first time doing this. So figuring out audio and visual editing is gonna be a challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be at Reaching Forward tomorrow.
Thanks. How are you?
Yeah. So we will be there tomorrow, but I will start the process of this on we're closed Monday, on Tuesday. And I will, if there's any issues or anything, or I'll just give you a general update on Tuesday with everything.
Yeah. So we'll know hopefully by Tuesday if we have to do this all again sometime next week. So
yeah. I'm hoping I can
I'm
figure it
hoping
out.
that- yeah, I'm hoping we don't have to, but
That's okay.
we'll keep you in the loop for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop